Hi, I'm Josh, and I'm very grateful you have decided to join me as I talk about the games that I played in September of 2022. So I only ended up playing 2 games with another adult, and those games happened to be the ones that I purchased in the previous month, in August. But I also got a handful of games played with my kids too, so let's get straight into it. So in the one gaming session I had with my adult gaming friend, we played the 2 games that I picked up last month. So I got to try out 2 new to me games. The first one was the second in a series. We have had for years the game Century Golem Edition, and this has been one of our favorite family games to play together. And so I picked up the second game in the series called Century Golem Edition Eastern Mountains. And there is also a third game in this Century series that we don't have yet. But this Golem Mountains version is more of a board-oriented game, whereas the original Century Golem Edition was more of a card-based game. So it does a lot of similar things in that players need to go around collecting gems and then cash in the gems to collect things that make them points. So like I said, it's a very similar setup to the original game where that was done through card play. In this game, it was done by taking a little wagon and driving around different locations on the board and activating things at the locations. I'm not sure which of the 2 games I like better, and so what I ended up doing was I gave this game a rating of 7 out of 10, which is the exact same rating I give the original Century Golem Edition. My friend that I played with gave this game a 7.5 out of 10. In terms of playing with kind of more serious adult board gamers, this game is definitely a bit on the lighter side. It leans more towards being a good family game, but it's okay with other adults too. But I'll talk about my experience playing with my kids in just a second. First, though, I'm going to talk about the other game I played with my friend, which was King Domino Origins. As I mentioned in the previous month, this is kind of a re-implementation of the original King Domino. It adds a new theme of this prehistoric theme, and it also adds some different gameplay elements that you can kind of add in or leave out depending on the style of game you want to play. So we played kind of the 2 primary ways to play. There are 3 altogether, but the first one is just kind of a very basic game that is roughly, I think, the same level of play as the original King Domino game. The kind of 2 additional versions that are added add some different ways to gain points, which are very interesting. They both play differently, but they're both a lot of fun. The game also has just the cutest art style and great components, so I have to admit that was a factor in my picking up the game to begin with. But I am pleased to say that this really hit the spot for me. There's something about this gameplay, this collecting of the domino-style pieces and having the puzzle of laying them out in the most efficient way on your board to collect points, but also in terms of collecting resources and using your resources to gain further points. And something about the way it all kind of works together in just very simple, easy to learn gameplay, but with kind of a challenging tactical or strategic level of play is really just an interesting combination for me. It's one that I enjoy a lot. I ended up rating the game 8.5 out of 10, and my friend rated it 8 out of 10, so this was a huge success. Just before I get into the games I played with my kids, let me take a quick moment to send out a huge thank you to my Patreon supporters, especially to my higher tier supporters, Joanna and Paul. And one of my patrons recently upgraded his pledge level, even though he was already kind of in the higher pledge tier, and he increased it further. And so I big extra thank you to Osmondus Perfect for your extra support. That really makes a meaningful difference to me and is really appreciated a lot. So thank you to all of my Patreon supporters. And now let's talk about what I played with my kids. So first of all, with my older boy, my 12-year-old, we played a game of chess, which he requested. And it's just so interesting to me that my 12-year-old is very interested in chess. Over the past year or so, he's been playing it semi-regularly with neighborhood friends or school friends or his cousins. And it's fascinating to me that kids his age, 12, 11, 13, are into chess. And it really pleases me. It makes me quite happy that he is. And he actually did really well when he played me in this last game. He was actually ahead for a little bit, but in the end kind of messed something up, missed something important, and I was able to squeak out the checkmate on him. But he definitely had me sweating already, which made me super proud, of course, as a dad. With my younger boy, my 11-year-old, we pulled out HeroClix, which is a game that he had played during his week-long summer camp, his gaming camp that they went to, and he had really enjoyed this HeroClix game, which is very much a simplified kind of minis game where you have a map with different features on the map, you have figures with individual statistics in terms of their strengths, weaknesses, special abilities, and then you choose which figures you're going to bring to bear for the game, and you're going to battle it out with the opposing team or teams. It is a game that seems like it might be a good introduction to miniature style gaming for younger gamers. The thing is, my younger son that I played with doesn't really know the ins and outs of the gameplay. Essentially, we just used some of the very basic stats of the figures. We ran them together on the map, and we chucked dice until the one or the other died, which, you know, isn't very interesting gameplay because he just didn't know how all the board features affected, in terms of the terrain, how it affected movement and combat, as well as all the very many special abilities that are listed with the figures. And in that sense, there is a little bit of a rules overload. When I look at all the abilities that these characters have, I'm like, how are you supposed to remember all this stuff, let alone understand what it all does? So at some point I'm going to have to sit down, actually learn the rules of this game, and teach them the proper way to play, because, you know, it's just not that interesting a game when you're just chucking dice until somebody dies. So I can't give this game a rating because we haven't really played the game as it's meant to be played. But my son, I mean, one thing he enjoys about the game is that you buy these sort of blind booster packs of figures, and you crack open the box and see what figures you got. Although there are different themes like Marvel and other themes that go along with it. So he enjoys kind of cracking those to see what figures he gets. But like I said, at some point I'll have to learn how to play that game properly and try it out with the actual game rules. Now, getting back to my 12-year-old, the other game he requested to play with me is one he requests on a fairly regular basis, and that is getting back to Brains, Family, Bergen, and Draken by Reiner Knizia. This is a game I've talked about previously. It's the one where it's kind of a real-time race where you're having to build this kind of connection of roads to get to castles and be the first to create that connection. And then there are 3 levels of gameplay where each one gets harder and harder, so it is easier for somebody who falls behind to catch up because they end up kind of on an easier level than the person ahead of them. And this time though, my son just smoked me. He got his 3rd level finished when I was still trying to get my 2nd level done. Basically, I only got the 1st level done when he had his 3rd one finished, which is pretty rare given how very challenging it is to get that 3rd level completed. But this is one I rate 6.5 as a family game. It's not one I would sort of choose to play necessarily, but it is fun as just kind of a short, quick, puzzly game to play with my to play with my son. And then the last 2 I played with my kids were the ones I just talked about. I actually got both of the new games out with them to try it with them and see how it went. So we tried Century Golem Edition Eastern Mountains. Played. Such a cumbersome name. But what was interesting is that both of my kids, after playing this one, said they preferred the original game. And I don't know if it's because we have so many years of experience with that original game and they're more familiar with it, or if it just didn't really... Oh, wait, this is the original game. Eastern Mountains is this one. Or I don't know if it was the unfamiliarity or if they just liked the card play more than having to puzzle out where to go on the board. And, you know, I can see their point. What was interesting is that when I originally read the game rules, it comes with 2 sets of rules. It comes with a set of rules where you play this game on its own, or the other set of rules are how to combine these 2 games together, take elements of the card game, elements of the board game, and mix them together to create a slightly different gaming experience. It's easy enough to do because, like I said, both games are fairly similar in what you're trying to accomplish in terms of just collecting gems and spending them to get points. And my first glance at the rules really had me thinking, well, it doesn't look like the mixed game adds much of interest so I think I would only want to play with the game on its own. But after having tried this out a couple of times and having had the kids say they like the original game better, now I'm actually interested in trying that combined rule set where you kind of take both games and mash them together. I believe that if you have the third game in the series, it also comes with rule sets of how to play any combination of any two of the three games together, plus a big game version where all three games are combined together. So that would be kind of interesting to see how all that works. But for the kids, they like the original game at this point. And then, like I said, King Domino Origins. I was so happy to get back to this one. I like this game a lot. Although, what was wild is, this is the first time my kids have played this game. It was my second time. My youngest son, my 11-year-old, came in first place. My 12-year-old was just a little bit behind him in second, and I was a distant third. Just did not come together for me in terms of whatever I was trying to do to get points. But man, I want to play this game right now. It's so much fun. And that is all for the month of September. I didn't pick up any new games, but as always, I want to hear from you. What have you been playing? What games have you purchased? What games are you excited about that are maybe upcoming releases? One that I want to check my local game store to see if they have it in stock yet is, what's it called? Planet Unknown, which is another polyomino game in the style of New York Zoo or Patchwork or Barren Park, but a little bit more involved as far as I can tell. So that's one that I have my eye on. So I'm very interested to hear from you. What do you have your eye on and what you've been playing recently or purchasing? So please do let me know, and thank you so much for watching. The preceding video has been brought to you free of charge by me, Josh. The only thing I ask in return is that you could do one of the following. Give me a thumb up, push the subscribe button, or share the link to this video with somebody who you think would enjoy it. Cheers! As I chat about the games that I played in September. Next up, with my 12-year-old again. So the one gaming session I had with my adult gaming friend. So in the one... gorgeous. When I was